So today we have verses 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 and 31 lined up of chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, starting with verse number 26. Actually 26 and 27 we will take up together because this is a continuous thought process. The sentence gets completed with verse number 27. अमी च त्वां धृष्ट्राष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः सर्वे सहैवावनिल्पालसङ्गे भीष्मो द्रोणसूत साहसं दीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमाणा विशन्ति दंष्ट्रकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्वल्लुग्रादशान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णतैरुत्तमाङ्गे. So verses 26 and 27 translate to Arjuna is continuing to describe the cosmic form, and he says, these sons of Dhritarashtra, with all the hosts of kings, Bhishma, Drona, and Suta's son, that is Karna, along with our generals. That was verse 26. 27, into your mouths with terrible teeth or tusks, fearful to behold, they hurriedly enter. Some are seen sticking in the gaps between the teeth with their heads pulverized or smashed. Let's take this up word by word, the two verses. Ami is these, cha and twam, you, dhritarashtra, dhritarashtrasya becomes of Dhritarashtra, putra is the sons, sarve all, saha with, ev even, avanil pal sange. So that is all the allied kings, and sange is host. So the host of allied kings, which is on the warring side, on the other side. Then the second line of verse 26, Bhishma is of course Pitahama Bhishma, Drona, their Guru Drona, Sut Putra, that is Putra of Suta, that is Karna, Tatha and, or also, Asaw this, Saha with, Asmadiye, that means with ours also. With ours what? Api also, Yodha Mukhaye. So what? Yodha Mukha. So that means war chiefs or war generals. So Yodha Mukhaye becomes or warriors in chief or army generals. Vaktrani is mouths. Te your Tvarmana, hurrying. Vishanti, enter. Danshtra Karalani. So this we have been using very often since the last few verses. Danshtra is teeth, Karalani is terrible. So Danshtra Karalani becomes with terrible teeth or tusks. Bhayanakani, fearful to behold, horrible. Kechit, some. Vilagna is sticking. Dansh Nantreshu. So in the gap between the teeth. Sandrishyante are seen. Churnete is smashed or pulverized. Uttamange is head. Uttamang, the best part of the body, which is the head. So with heads. Okay. The two words become, read as, these sons of Dhritarashtra, with all the host of kings, Bhishma, Drona, and Suta's son Karna, along with our generals, into your mouths with terrible teeth or tusks, that are fearful to behold, they hurriedly enter. Some are seen sticking in the gaps between the teeth with their heads pulverized or smashed. So let's chant it together. Ami cha tvam dhritarashtasya putraha sarve sahevavanilpal sange Bhishmo Dronasuta-putrasthatasau Sahasam Diyerapi Yodhamukhaye Vaktrani Titvarmana Vishanti Danshtrakaralani Bhayanikani Kechil-vignadanshanaantareshu sahandrishyante chuniteruttammange. So these set of verses are very, very interesting because see, in the previous set of verses, Sri Krishna, in his cosmic vision, when we try to understand it, was destroying the notion of space. So, the entire world, all the Rudras, the Maruts, the Vasus, the Adityas, Arjun was able to see in that finite form. So, it appeared that everyone and everything had congealed together in that cosmic form. So, the concept of space had gone. And even that at that point of time, I had mentioned that space and time are concepts of the mind. They're intellectual concepts. And actually, they do not really exist. It's in the relative zone that they exist, not in the absolute zone. Just the best example is that in the deep sleep, there is no concept of space and time. So, we move from India to London in a nanosecond in our dream. And we could be moving from our old age to our childhood again in it's just a thought, and we move. So space and time actually create the sense of separateness between amongst the entities in the universe. So from me and you, and from me to this table to the book, so these are all how they're separate. So that is what is created by the concept of space and time, and they are interrelated. So the larger the space, the more time it takes us to go from one part of that space to the other part of the space. So, for example, even if you may recollect that gold ornaments that I had talked about, we had these 100 pairs of anklets and they're all separate, so there's space, so it's dividing, and then we amalgamate, melt it down and get one homogeneous mass. Now, when we are looking at the 100 ornaments, okay, which are spread out in front of me, it takes me time to move from one to the other. So that is the time. The space is creating that illusion of time. Okay. Once the concept of space is removed, that means I melt down all the gold ornaments and get a homogeneous mass. We start seeing things together. And therefore, no time is required to move from one to the other end, even of that homogeneous mass. In this verse, till now, we had been discussing about space. From this verse onwards, the notion of time is being addressed. So, in the cosmic form, Lord Krishna is actually eliminating the notion of time. Why? Now, if you read the verses, Arjun is able to see the past, the present, and the future. More importantly, the future, all at once in the cosmic form. So, among the scenes on the canvas, as it were, of the cosmic form, Arjun has actually started to see the results of the Mahabharat war. The war which, when we are studying the scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, when it was being spoken, had not even started. Arjun was still examining the both sides of the warring armies, and he had put down his bows and arrows, saying that he cannot fight the war. So the war had not started. The war is yet to start. So Arjun is able to see the future in the cosmic form. He is able to see things that had not happened so far. And he sees the Pandav army and the Kaurav army. So, or let me put it the other way, the Kaurav army and the Pandav army. Because we first start with the sons of the Duryodhan in verse number 26. So, it is only Brahman who is beyond the notion of space and time. So, all this was happening in Brahman or Lord Krishna's cosmic form. And Lord Krishna in his cosmic form could show a scene that was to occur in the future. It is like a movie director who knows the complete script. So he's the only one who knows what's going to happen in the movie. When we go to see the movie, we only see it as it progresses. Now, so this is one aspect, the concept of time that is being addressed in these set of verses. The second concept, again, we come back to, and which we have been doing in this chapter, and we have done it in the previous chapter also, is that the three fundamental powers that manifest in the universe, can anyone name them? The three fundamental powers which are represented by the Trinity of gods in our scriptures? Anyone?
Creation, preservation, and destruction.
Absolutely. Or Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu the maintainer, and Mahesh or Shiv the destroyer. Now, in the sequence of this chapter, you may recollect that verses 13 to 16 covered the creation within the cosmic form. And in verse 15, Arjun actually says that he sees Lord Brahma, the Lord of creation, seated on a lotus seat. And verses 17 and 18 of this chapter described the Lord as Vishnu, the maintainer. And specifically in verse 17, Arjun saw the form of Vishnu with a diadem, mace, and discus. And in verse number 18, Arjun had referred to Vishnu as the ultimate abode. The words that were used were Vishwasya Param Nidhan. So the ultimate abode or treasure or repository of the universe, because everything or everyone dwells in the self. And just as if I'm the dreamer, so my mind is the abode of my dream world. Similarly, the entire universe springs from Brahman. Hence, everything, Brahman is the ultimate repository. And when we perish, when we are dissolved, we go back into Brahman. So we come out of Brahman and we go back into Brahman. So whatever comes out and at the time of creation is supported by Brahman during the creation or the created state, and at dissolution goes back into Brahman. So Brahman is the treasure house of everything, and hence the abode. Then the second set of phrase that Arjun had used was Avayayam Shashvat Dharma Gopta, or the immutable protector of the eternal laws. The laws of nature which govern this universe, which function infallibly. And Brahman ensures that these laws function and are implemented. So he protects these laws. And the third term that Arjun had used was Sanatana Purushaha, or the ancient being, because nothing predates him. Brahman existed in the first instance of time, and that we have gone into detail how time arises only with the second occurrence. At the start, there is nothing to compare it with. As I said, it's in the relative zone. So it's only with the second instance that the concept of time arises. So Brahman is said to be before time, or the father of time, or ancient. Now, from verse number 23 onwards, we have been reading the destructive nature of Brahman, the Lord of Death. And continuously we have been reading the word Danshtra Karalani, where horrible teeth, continuously we've been reading this in all the verses, almost all the verses from 23 onwards. So we are talking of the last of the trinities, the destructor, the Lord of Death. And the Lord of Death consumes both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. So both the good and the bad are consumed. Or ultimately, both the good and the bad meet the same end. So in the cosmic vision, Arjun sees the Kauravas, their allies, all the kings which have aligned with the Kaurav army, the combined, the Guru, Dronacharya, who was the Guru of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, grandsire Bhishma, again, grandsire to both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, Suta's son, that is Karn, who was, who was born to a low caste or not a Kshatriya family, mother, and a host of kings and generals of our or Pandav's side also. So the good and the bad were all rushing. The term that is used is rushing, hurriedly entering, Tvarmana, hurrying, as if we are skipping queues. Everyone is trying to rush into the mouth of the cosmic form. And some are crushed by the terrible teeth of the cosmic vision, and their heads are smashed. And in space between the teeth, they are hanging. Look at the horrible details. It's the most grotesque description of utter destruction. But these horrible details give us a picture of the totality, that into that macrocosmic mouth, all of us will disappear. Our ancestors have gone there. We will go there. There is no choice. We cannot remain in this world. It is a one-way traffic, from the womb to the tomb. And you think of it conceptually, at this very moment that we talk, how many people are dying across the world and across the universe? And at the same time, how many are being born? So people are disappearing in the cremation or the burial grounds, and people are appearing in the maternity wards. So this is a continuous cycle of birth and death. So we start getting a whole vision of the universe with these two verses. Let's move on to verse number 28. Yatha nadina bahavo ambuvega samudra meva vimukhadраvanti tatha tavaminar lokavira vishanti vaktrayal bhivejvalanti. So the verse translates to, as the many currents of rivers rush towards the ocean only, so do these heroes in the world of men enter your blazing mouths. So let's read this word by word. Yatha, just as. Nadinam, Nadi is river, Nadina becomes of the rivers, Baha, many. Ambu Vega, water currents. Veg is current. Ambu is water, water currents. Samudram, towards the ocean. Ev alone. Abhimukha, towards. Dravanti, rush. Tatha, so. Tav, your. Ami, these. Nar, lok, veera. Nar is human. Lok, world. Veer, heroes. So Nar, lok, veera means heroes in the world of men. Vishanti, enter. Vaktrani is mouths, plural. Abhivijvalanti is blazing, generating heat. So As the many torrents of rivers rush towards the ocean only, so do these heroes in the world of men enter your blazing mouths. Let's chant it together. यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगा समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राणि अभिविज्वलन्ति. So, just to set things in perspective, now that we are talking of rivers in this verse, see, we've all heard of the great Amazon River, which is one of the largest rivers in the world by terms of the volume of water. And here we are talking about the content, because that is what the simile is about. So 1100 rivers feed the mighty Amazon. And the river itself covers almost 7 million square kilometers of land in South America. And it empties 3 lakh cubic meters of water per second into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. So this will give you the concept. I mean, we have to start conceptualizing or understanding the level at which we are talking. So when Arjun says, is describing the hordes of warriors of his generation, he's seeing his generation there, rushing into the cosmic form's mouth. He compares them to the water in a river rushing with great speed into the ocean. And the important parts of the simile that we have to understand is the waters have no choice but to merge with the ocean. So do we have no choice but to merge with the Brahman. Millions of generations have reached there. We will also go there, and millions of generations after us will go there. None of us can avoid it. And also, you may recollect, we had talked about the water cycle when we were doing the Karma Yoga, chapters 3, 4, and 5. So when Lord Krishna was talking about yajna and how, the water cycle was one of the similes that was presented there, that as a form of sacrifice to make us understand the Karma Yoga. So a drop of water which originates from the ocean evaporates into the sky, collects into a cloud, falls down as a rain into a water body, and eventually it finds its way back into the flowing river to go back to its source, which is the ocean. So that drop of water, at one point of time, it is rain, next it's in the pond or a lake, then it's in a stream or a river, and so on and so forth, and it goes back to the ocean. The understanding, the concept that we have to understand is that it is always water. It doesn't matter whether it's part of the raindrop or part of the cloud or part of the pond or the river, the stream. It is always, the nature of that droplet is water. So see, likewise, we tend to think of ourselves as children, as parents, students, engineers, lawyers, executives, rich people, poor people, powerful people, etc., at different points of time in our lives. And we start identifying with that form, whatever form we identify with. It's like the water identifying with the droplet in the rain. So we forget our journey. Just as that cycle of the water, we start from Brahman, the source, and we will come back to that Brahman. So the simile is also covering this aspect and also referring to the cycle of birth and death. And the blazing sun, actually, we are talking of the blazing mouths, which is the simile for the blazing sun, causes the waters to evaporate from the ocean, rise as a vapor, form the clouds condense, fall as rain on the earth, the rainwater runs down the hills and valleys and flows into rivers. Rivers rush and continue with their journey till they meet the ocean. And this continues. So again, from the ocean, the water evaporates and the process repeats. So the verse is covering the last part of the simile where the rivers rush into ocean. So just as the rivers rush into the ocean, so too the great warriors and heroes amongst men enter that blazing mouth of the Lord. Of course, they will continue with the cycle. They will take birth, and this cycle of birth and death goes on endlessly as the concept that we've been trying to understand till the time we attain liberation or moksha. Till that time, we will continue with this cycle of birth and death. Let's move on to verse number 29. Yatha pradiptam jwalanam patanga Vishanti nashaya samriddha vega tatheva nashaya vishanti loka tavapi vaktrani samriddha vega. So as moths, patanga is a moth. So as moths with great speed enter into the brilliant fire for destruction, even so, people with great speed enter your mouths for destruction. This is what the verse translates to. Let's take this up word by word. Yatha, as or like. Pradiptam is brilliant. Jwalanam, jwala or fire. Patanga, moth. Vishanti enters. Nashai, Nash is destruction. Nashai becomes for destruction. Samriddha Vega, with great speed. Tatha so, Ev even, Nashai again for destruction, Vishanti enter, Loka, world of people. Tav your, Api also, Vaktrani is mouths, Samrid Vega with great speed. So this is simple. Let's chant. So it translates to as moths with great speed enter into the brilliant fire for destruction, even so people with great speed enter into your mouths for destruction. So let's chant it together. यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतङ्गा विशन्ति नाशाय समृद्धवेगा तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकास्तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धवेगा. See, in verse number 25, which we just recapped, which was covered in the last session, the mouth was called the blazing, was blazing like the fire of time, or ferocious, unmerciful, or as the all-consuming fire at the time of pralaya or cosmic dissolution. So the simile that Arjuna is using is that people are entering the blazing mouths of yours, of the cosmic form, like moths rushing into a flame. Okay, so let's understand the simile. The simile is a reference to the temptation which is born out of ignorance, which leads to destruction. Now, let me elaborate. The moth is instinctively enchanted by the brilliance of the light of the fire, a flame. So because of the attraction towards the flame, it is unable to resist its temptation. And it voluntarily, no one is pushing it, it voluntarily rushes towards the light and wants to come closer and closer to the flame, only to be consumed or meet its destruction, nashai. Similarly, an ignorant person, it's our ignorance And out of our ignorance, we fall prey to the worldly objects, enchantments, the tantalizing objects of the world. And we want to continue to go nearer and nearer to these objects till the time we are consumed by them. We develop, endless desire for these objects, and the desire continues to gain momentum till we lose our peace of mind and our rationality, and we continue towards the object. So the delusion that is born out of our ignorance leads us to our destruction. And that is what we are talking about when we read, or when Arjun says that people entering the blazing mouths of the cosmic form like moths rushing into a flame. And so when Krishna is showing this process of destruction at such a grand scale, Krishna also wants to remove Arjun's fear of death, actually. So see, when we die, the physical body goes away. So that pain, the physical pain, goes away when we die. So there is no question of pain once we die. So what are we afraid of? One is the physical pain. So that goes away when we die. What we are scared of at the time of death is losing our identity, our possessions, our attachments, our network of friends, relationship with other people, with other names and forms. So that is what we are afraid of. And once we know that death is nothing but a removal of these names and forms, and going into the source, the Brahman, where everyone is there, our fear of death will go away. At least, if not go away, it will reduce to a great extent. And that is what is implied here in verse number 29. Moving on to verse number 30. Lelihya grasmana samanta lokan samagna vadanena jvalabdhi तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रं भासस्त्वेवोग्ना प्रतपन्ति Vishnu. So the verse translates to devouring all the people on all sides. With your flaming mouths, you are licking. Your fierce rays, filling the whole world with brilliance, are burning, O Vishnu. Let's take this up word by word. Liye lihase, you lick. Grasman, as you are devouring or swallowing or consuming. Samantat, from every side. Lokan, lok is world, lokan is the plural, worlds. Samgran, all. Vadane, with mouths. Jwalbdhi, flaming. Tejobhi, with radiance. Apurya, having filled Jagat, world. Samagram, whole. Bhas is rays, derived from bha, which is brilliance or light. Tav, your. Ugra, fierce. Pratapanti, are burning. Vishnu, O Vishnu. So devouring all the people on all sides with your flaming mouth, you are licking. Your fierce rays, filling the whole world with brilliance, are burning, O Vishnu. Let's chant it together. Lelihya se grasmana samanta lokan samagnanavadnev jalabadi tejobhirapurya jagatsmagna bhasastvabhuvna pratipanti Vishnu. Arjuna addresses Krishna as Vishnu, Krishna being the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and as we've just covered, Vishnu is one of the lords of the Trinity, the maintainer, and the Trinity represents the three fundamental powers in the universe. Now, see, when we have consumed tasty food, sumptuous food, and we are tempted to lick our lips in appreciation, though it may not be a very polite kind of a gesture, but licking of lips after a meal symbolizes contentment. It is a confirmation that we have enjoyed the meal. And of course, when we see a carnivore, licking after devouring its prey, it is an expression of contentment after its meal. Amongst a human being, it's not supposed to be very polite, but licking of lips after a meal is symbolic of the person or the being having enjoyed the meal. Now, in this verse, Arjuna is saying that Brahman in its cosmic form is licking after devouring people on all sides. So, this is an expression of contentment, or it signifies or it implies that Brahman is thoroughly enjoying this process of destruction, and he's ensuring that nothing is spared. So consuming from all directions and then licking everything, nothing is going to waste. Everything and everyone is ultimately destroyed. So we ask ourselves, how can the Lord be happy and content with such colossal destruction? Isn't it cruel to derive pleasure from destruction? Now, from the relative point of view, this may be true. But from the absolute point of view, this is incorrect. We talked about Vishnu being the protector of all the laws, and implying the meticulous functioning of the Lord's eternal laws that govern the universe. Law of cause and effect, law of karma, cycle of birth and death, creation and dissolution of the universe. So licking in this context represents that the Lord, the Brahman, is enjoying the proper functioning of these laws. There is no ambiguity. The laws function. We don't need to have legal cases here. Whatever the law is, it will be followed. It will be implemented. And having said that, so the dissolution, when we are talking of the process of dissolution or destruction, even that has to be complete. You see, that is what is being implied. And I think the best example is that whenever humans do something, we always leave some part of it incomplete. So when we send space vehicles into the space, or satellites or spacecrafts, they will disintegrate, but they will not disintegrate completely. We will create debris in the space also. Just as we create debris in the sea, in the ocean, with our submarines and whatever we send below the earth or in the ocean, in the environment, we are polluting the environment because we do not properly destruct or dissolve what we are trying to dissolve. The dyes of the garments are polluting the oceans, so we are not able to handle it at the surface level, at our level. We put it into the oceans because we are not able to destruct them completely. And now we have added e-waste and plastic waste to our environment pollution also. So the point being made is that the destruction is an important part of creation, and it has to be handled completely. And if we look around us in the nature, there are examples all around us which show how birth and death, or creation and dissolution takes place. See, the morning gives rise to the afternoon. So the morning gets over and afternoon is born. Afternoon dies, gives rise to the evening. Evening dies and gives rise to the night. The plant and the animal kingdom systematically follow this cycle of creation and dissolution. And even in the humankind, old technology has to give way to new technology. Old businesses give way to new startups which bring innovative products to the market. Similarly, if no one were to die, the earth would be unable to sustain the needs of an infinitely growing and aging population. So the cycle of destruction following creation and then creation following destruction is a cycle, and it has to be followed and followed completely. So death has to be understood as an essential and beneficial ingredient of life. With that, let's move on to the last verse for the day. Verse number 31. आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो नमोस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तम्. So Arjun says, tell to me who you are, fierce in form. Salutations to you, O Supreme Lord. Have mercy. I wish to know you, the primeval. I know not your purpose. So let's take this up word by word. Akhyai, tell me or make known to me. Me to me, ka who, Bhavan, you, God. Ugra Roop. Ugra is terrible, Roop is form. So Ugra Roop becomes fierce in form. Namaha is a salutation. Astu, let there be. Te to you. Devavar, O Supreme God. Prasid, have mercy. Vigyatum, to know. Ichhami, I wish or I desire. Bhavantam, you. Adhyam, primeval. Na, not he indeed. Prajanami, I know. Tav, your. Pravrittam, purpose and nature. Pravritti, nature, right? So tell to me who you are, fierce in form. Salutations to you, O Supreme Lord. Have mercy. I wish to know you, the primeval. I know not your purpose or nature. Let's chant it together. आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो नमोस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तम्. So Arjun again asks for mercy after beholding Lord's terrible, frightful form, which incidentally he only had asked for. He had requested to see. And once Lord Krishna transforms into this gigantic human cosmic form from his human form, and we have seen the transformations also of the cosmic form from the description that Arjuna has been saying in these set of verses. This form, the cosmic form, was initially pleasing, but gradually it started transforming into a terrible form as the detailing proceeded. Now, finally, when Arjuna is beholding this terrible form, he is agitated because it is in a great contrast to the merciful and benevolent form that we all assume the God's form to be. So after beholding this terrible form of the Lord, Arjun salutes the Lord and he says, you're the best amongst the devas and please have mercy on me. I want to know the nature and purpose of you, the primeval being, implying that Arjun does not understand who is Krishna and what is Krishna's purpose. So this is where we end, but this is also a reflection of the human psychology. See, when we behold an amazing sight, initially there's wonderment. We are enchanted, and gradually as we try to understand more and more of it, we initially, the blazing light, so we have to go through that blazing light to see the details. And the more we see the details and try to understand them, the more we realize how much we don't know, And this, a lot of scientists have actually said that the more I analyze, or the more I try to see, the more I realize that the level of my ignorance. So the more terrified we become. So what is the process? In wonder, something wonderful is there. So we try to go into the details. And as we start collecting the data, and trying to understand what is happening here, we ultimately land up into the domain of the fear. It's like a child, a small child sees a terrible sight, someone grinning maybe with horrible teeth, will initially cover their eyes and start bawling, right? But then after some time, the child will start peeping through those fingers of his and try to understand what is happening. What was that thing which scared him? So that is the normal human intellect. So however frightened we are, we want to understand, observe, and comprehend what is it that we are seeing. So Arjun says that I want to understand you and comprehend you. So with that, we will end today's session.